The Soul Stone requires a sacrifice. So how are the Avengers going to get it back from Thanos? Hit the music, folks. In Avengers Infinity War, the Soul for a Soul scene was one of the most dramatic, one of the most heartbreaking, and for audiences and Thanos, one of the most traumatic scenes in MCU history. As horrible as that scene was, knowing that the Avengers are going to potentially successfully get the Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones back from Thanos, should we be preparing ourselves for another heartbreaking and traumatic scene? Assuming the same rules of sacrificing a soul for a soul, we took a look at those individuals left in the MCU and those individuals that they could possibly sacrifice in order to acquire the Soul Stone. The first person you think of making that sacrifice is, of course, going to be Iron Man, Tony Stark, the guy who lost so much in that fight, who was humbled and humiliated in a way by Thanos in that battle, a guy who tried so hard to prevent this from happening and failed. The most obvious person for him to sacrifice would be his soon-to-be wife, Pepper Potts. We know that Pepper made it through the snap, and we've seen video of her, or we've seen photos of her, still photos of her, in the rescue armor for upcoming untitled Avengers 4 movie. If we make another assumption that that person has to be present to be the sacrifice, then Pepper's at the top of the list. The plot thickens on this when you consider that, was she pregnant? Is she pregnant during Infinity War when she's talking to Tony Stark about possibly having a child, and Tony having his very real dream about having a kid? Another possibility for Tony Stark, and honestly less obvious, is Steve Rogers, Captain America. That the idea that these two share a brotherly love. They have had their moments where they hated each other, where they wanted to destroy each other. But I think ultimately, deep down, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, they respect each other, and they're like brothers. And I think if this movie's done right, you can see those two working toward the same goal. We are going to come together and we're going to defeat Thanos. I think you could see these two working so closely that brotherly love is going to be enough to where they're standing there on a cliff in the battle, whatever. It's time to take the stone, and you see Steve Rogers accept the fact that, Tony, do it. The world needs you more than it needs me right now. I can see that happening. To that same effect, Rhodey, Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes. I'm telling you, it's that same brotherly love. Even when Tony Stark is in his darkest hour during the Iron Man 2 scenes and everything else, Rhodey has always been there. And he's never turned his back on Tony Stark. He always expected more of Tony Stark. And I think there's that relationship where it is that huge mutual respect, that brotherly love that could qualify for this soul for a soul sacrifice. The next character we think could possibly have to make that kind of sacrifice would be Thor. And there's several people that this could possibly happen with for Thor. The trickiest one is his brother Loki. Now, the debate can go on and on whether or not Loki's alive. Did Loki make it off the ship? Is he dead? Is he not? If he didn't make it off, then I say time travel becomes involved and Loki's coming back. But there is no doubt, after everything that has happened, Thor loves his brother Loki. Absolutely loves him. And thinks more highly of Loki than Loki does himself. So that's absolutely a possibility if it works out. Him being alive or him coming back through time travel. The next two possibilities, I think, have the same probability of happening. Kind of middle of the road, not likely. That's either Valkyrie or Jane Foster. If they were going to do Valkyrie, they would have to build that relationship. First of all, she's going to have to return. And her and Thor's going to have to find the Asgardians. And those two get much closer than they were at the end of Ragnarok. If it were Jane Foster, I just hope it's not Jane Foster. I mean, I'm just saying, Natalie Portman, bless your heart, just move on. Let's not go down this Jane Foster road any further than it's already been. Our next character possibly making the sacrifice could be Captain America. And there's several people that Captain America could possibly sacrifice. The most obvious that's still alive would be Tony Stark and that brotherly relationship that we've already kind of beat up on. The other one would be Black Widow. Those two, since Winter Soldier, have been very close throughout all the movies. They very much are not an item, but they're tied at the hip. They're close friends, and Cap trusts her, and he doesn't trust a lot of people. So being in that inner circle, I think he could very well be considered, or close to being considered, as one of these people that could possibly be sacrificed. Somebody else that comes up is Sharon Carter, Agent 13. Now, whether or not that relationship budded on and off screen, or whether it will, is yet to be seen. But there's definitely the kiss during Civil War, but we don't know what happens after that. Well, we do, and that's that Captain America went to hang out in Wakanda, and he obviously hasn't seen her in some time. Now, for any reason, if time travel is involved, or we're able to bring back the dusted characters, then right off the bat, you're thinking Bucky. He has to possibly sacrifice Bucky, or Falcon even, to get the Soul Stone. But, of course, that's going to take some resurrecting and building sandcastles or something to get the dust back together. The next possibility is Bruce Banner. And Bruce Banner's got a couple people that we can maybe consider that fall in this category where he would sacrifice him. We know about him and Black Widow. Bruce Banner and Black Widow, up through Age of Ultron, were really close. Developing a relationship. It was on the way to being something more than just dating. And unfortunately, the Hulk had to go flying up to Sakaar and whatever else happened. And when they meet back together in Infinity War, it's less than hot. It's just kind of not even lukewarm. It's more uncomfortable than anything. Now, go back to Bruce Banner and Valkyrie. The Hulk and Valkyrie were friends. They were very close friends there on Sakaar. But we don't know if that went anywhere past that, or if it would past that. Possibly, once again, that's a relationship that would have to be developed after Valkyrie returned with the rest of the Asgardians. A couple honorable mentions that we thought of, but we just didn't really want to list on the front of the video, would be Spider-Man. Spider-Man has, if he comes back and for any reason he wields the gauntlet, or can acquire the Soul Stone, he has several people that he could sacrifice to achieve it, including his Aunt May, including Tony Stark, so that's a possibility. If Scarlet Witch were to come back, there's the possibility of also Quicksilver coming back if we're going crazy with time travel, and that was a relationship of brother and sister, very close in the MCU. The last one I'll leave you with to think about is Nebula, because Nebula is a wild card in this whole thing. You would think she doesn't have anything left. However, I think you're going to see her through the course of this movie develop some relationships with Raccoon, with Iron Man, and not only that, I think there's the possibility that down the road she makes a deal with the Soul Stone somehow to trade a soul for a soul, and that's to release Gamora and for her to be consumed by the stone. So I think there's several possibilities with Nebula. As important as she was in Infinity Gauntlet, I just don't see her sitting out there and being a token Guardian of the Galaxy for the entirety of this movie. So guys, I know you have some ideas that we haven't thought about, so what I want you to do is look down in the comments, click, and start telling me about them. Let me know how you think, or what sacrifice you think is going to be required by the Soul Stone for the Avengers to get it back from Thanos. If you haven't, make sure you go ahead, click that little subscribe button. The little bell beside it will let you get instant notifications as soon as a video drops. and leave us a thumbs up. Give us that like. Doesn't cost you anything, and we appreciate it. Thanks to those who worked on the video with me. This has been awesome. I think we're going to call my crew here BSM Productions. And guys, appreciate it. Real Comics Action Crew, out.